Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana, and today I'm going to review a game called Megaland from Red Raven Games. Ryan and Malorie Laukat have created this nice game for 2 to 5 players for people ages 8 and up. It takes about 20 minutes to play, so I'm going to give you a quick overview of how the game plays, a shortened playthrough just to give you a feel of the game flow, and then close off with a review. What do I think about this game and my final thoughts? So let's get this one to the table. Well, let's start by taking a look at the components. And as with all Red Raven games, you can expect the art to be great. Ryan Laukat, and I'm not sure if Malorie Laukat is involved in the gameplay or the art or both, but the art that's produced in their games is just incredible. And that continues to be the case in this simple game, Megaland. But another thing that really struck me as soon as I opened the box are these game trays. I had no idea that it came with these game trays. I didn't intend to buy any sort of deluxe version. Maybe they all come with this same setup. And then I also found a little surprise when I pulled out the game trays. There was a little cluster of above and below bonus cards, promo cards. So that was kind of cool as well. But I love the game trays. In this case, it really nicely contains all of the cards. I'll just quickly go through what the components are, and then we'll talk about the gameplay itself, do the partial playthrough, and then give you a review at the end. So as you can see, there's lots of different kinds of cards. Some of the cards, these 17, are considered building cards, the standard building cards. And then these 6 groups down here are the sort of base building cards, the star building cards. They all have a little star right here in the corner. And when I show you some of the art, I can show you a close-up of those. So there are 6 star building cards. You always use those in the setup. And then there are 17, and you choose 7 of the 17. And once I get the setup out, I'll explain a little bit of that detail. You can see a little space here for the character cards, and I've got 3 set up. I'm going to show you a 2-player game here, and then the first player token. We've got 3 other standees for up to 5 players if you choose. This is the level board or level tile, and this is where you'll place your character if you're going to pursue the level. And then underneath that we find the level cards and some other cards here. So the level cards have this map on the top surface or on the back surface, and then on the other side they talk about, it shows you the damage that you might incur, and I'll go through that as we look at the gameplay. And then there is this card, which is just a reference card to show that if you're buying the 5th heart, it costs 2 matching tiles. It has the word matching here. If you're buying your 6th heart, it costs 3 matching goods. So it's just kind of a reference card there for all the players. And then there's cards for each player, player board, basically for each one to track their health and their injury, and a reminder of the frequency of different damages that are in these level cards. All right, underneath those are the goods cards. And in the goods cards, I'll show them later, but there's 6 different kinds of goods, and we'll look at close-ups later. But there's eggs, and there's, I don't know if that's stone or salt, fish, crystals, carrots, and then there's some gears in here too, but there aren't very many gears. The little corner, or a number here in the corner, tells you how many of each card there are. And so those are all of the different components in the first part of the game's trays. And then you've got this other smaller section that has all the little pieces. It's got a lid on it, so see if I can get the lid off without throwing everything all over. It's got a lid on it so that when it's in the box, they don't fall out, the pieces don't fall out. And you've got 1 value tokens, 5 value tokens, 10 value tokens, some arrows and some hearts. And this is also really spectacular just to keep everything together. Really love that part of the game. So those are the different components. Let me get it set up for a 2-player game and then talk to you about how the game plays. All right, so I've got the game set up for 2 players. We've got our 7 basic buildings here and our 6 star buildings. The 6 star buildings again are the same for every game, and the 7 you choose from the 17. They recommend that you have at least 1 of each number, so you can see in the corner there's 1, 2, 3, 2 3s, 2 4s, and a 5, and so I've made sure I have 1 of each number. The 6 star cards are always the same, as I said. I just put the matching hearts card to show if you use, or how you can purchase extra hearts or life points basically with matching goods. I've got the pile of goods here. This is the 2nd player. This is our 1st player. We got the 1st player token here. This is the round or level tile, and then these are the level maps or level cards. and then this is the standee for the second player. So basically this game is broken into 3 phases. There is the run the level phase, and then the buy phase, and then the night phase. So I'm going to run through first, obviously, the run the level phase. So in run the level, the players decide to put their characters on the level tile, and typically speaking, they're always going to want to start with their players on the tile. I can't think of any reason why they wouldn't want to start there at least. I'm going to go ahead and move this first tile off to the side just so that there's more room on the board here for now. And this means that they are going to run this level of the video game. Once they're in, then they're going to gather goods for every level that they stay in. So since both of them have chosen to run the first level, we draw a good. Oh, should do it the other way. First player gets a carrot, and second player gets an ostrich egg. All right, and then we turn over the level to see how they do. Now on this side of the level card, you can see there's no damage points down here at the bottom. Damage points would be little skull crossbones emblems, which you'll see soon. And because there's no damage points, we basically survive that level without any injury. And so I've got 4 hearts here for player 2 and 4 hearts here for player 1. You start off with 4 hearts each. All right, so we both survived, so no reason for us to not choose to stay in for level 2. So player 1 gets a gear this time, so they've got 2 goods, and then this player gets another ostrich egg, so they've stayed in level 2. Now let's execute level 2, and all right, we got really lucky. So level 2, this is the treasure box, and the treasure box means that we get an extra good, and so player number 1 is going to get a stone. Player number 2 is going to get a crystal. All right, and so we're doing pretty well here. Let me overlap these just a bit so we can make sure we don't run out of space. All right, so still no damage, no injury, so we might as well stick around for level 3. So both players choose to stay in level 3. So player 1 gets a fish now, and player 2 gets a carrot. And we execute the next level. Oh, we've got some damage. We've got some bats here approaching us in this level of the video game. And there are 2 damage, so each player then would move 2 of their hearts to the injured part of the game board, and indicating that in this level they have been injured. So this player 2 has 2 hearts left. This player 2 has 2 hearts left. If you ever end a level and you have no hearts left over here, no life points, then you have failed and you fall in that level, and you would lose all of these goods that you've been gaining. So at this point we have to make a decision, because here we can see that there are 3 cards in this level deck, of this 10 card level deck, with none, with no skull and crossbones, no injuries, no penalties. 3 of them have 1, 2 of them have 2, 1 of them has 3, and then we've got the treasure box. So we've already seen one of the blanks and the treasure box, and now we've seen one of the doubles. So there's still 3 singles out there and only 1 triple. So I think we're pretty good to maybe risk going another round. So both players say, yeah, I'm going to stick in the level, 1 more level. Oh, this player gets another gear. That's pretty impressive. And then this player gets another ostrich egg. All right. And now we see, do they survive the level? So we turn this over. Oh, wow, really fortunate. No damage. And so both of them live through this level, and they get to keep all their goods. So we're back in the same position we were just a few minutes ago. We both still have 2 life points. Do we want to risk it again? Now that we've got all these goods, we lose them if we fall in this level, but we're going to risk it. So both players say, yeah, I'm going to stay in 1 more level. So they're rewarded with a potential good. Wow, 3 gears. Those are rare to have 3 in 1. We got a fish for this player. All right. And so they've both stayed in. Let's see if they survive. All right. We turn over the Angry Rabbit. Now there's a couple things on this Angry Rabbit card that I want to show you. In the left corner, there's this little arrow, green arrow. It's a jump symbol. And earlier when I was showing you the components, we have these little green arrow jump tokens. So if you have any of those tokens in your collection, and you get them actually by investing in a gym. I guess you go to the gym and you learn how to jump well. You can see you get jump tokens here. So if you invest in the gym, you get some jump tokens, and if you use those jump tokens, then before you flip over the card, you can say, I'm going to play a jump token. And if it has this symbol on it, that means you're jumping over this bad guy, this enemy. If you don't play the jump card before it's flipped, it doesn't matter. You have to flip it first. You have to choose first. And if you play a jump token and turn the card over and there isn't any arrow, like this previous one, there was no arrow, you just wasted your jump token. The other thing on this angry rabbit, it shows that there are 3 carrots. If you have 3 carrots, you can trade them in for 3 other goods. And neither of us has 3 carrots. The angry rabbit only will take 3 carrots. You have to have a set of 3. So neither one of us can do that. You would just discard the 3 carrots and draw 3 new cards off the goods. So maybe if you were collecting too many carrots and wanted more variety, you could do that. But we do suffer 1 damage from the rabbit. So player number 1 moves over, player number 2 moves over, and both now have 3 injuries and only 1 left. So if we turn over this next card and it is a 1, 2, or 3 damage, we are out of the round and we would lose all of these tokens. And so now each player has to decide, well, are we going to risk it or not? So player number 1, being a little bit more conservative, is going to say, you know what, I've got a pretty good hand here. I am not going to play the next round. So player number 1 pulls their standee off and says, I'm skipping this round. The other player says, you know what, I'm going to go risky. I'm going to stay in and see if I can survive 1 more round. So player number 1 is going to keep these goods no matter what. They've left the round before they've suffered their 4th damage. Player number 2, we're going to see. So because player number 2 has decided to risk it, they do get to flip over another card and they get a carrot. Now let's see if they survive the round. So if we flip this one over, oh, wow, if we had had a jump token, which we haven't even had a chance to purchase yet because we haven't purchased any of these buildings being the first round of the game, we might have been able to jump over this red serpent, but we don't have any jump tokens and we didn't play them anyway. And so the red serpent attacks and we do 3 damage. I only have 1 left, so what that means, all of these goods are discarded. We've lost them all. And so we'll discard those over there on the side. So he comes back to his player board and he has not survived that run at the level. All right, so that is the first phase, running the level. And I think it explains most of the key things that could happen in running the level phase. All right, now we move on to phase 2, the buy phase. And in the buy phase, if you have goods, which player number 1 does, and player number 2 got too risky, they lost all of theirs, you can buy these buildings. And you buy the buildings based on the numbers that are in the top left corner. So you need 1 good to buy this one, you need 2, 3, 4, and so on to buy these different buildings. And for the buildings, you have to pay goods that are separate and unique. You have to pay individual, separate, unique goods. So this would need like a carrot and an ostrich egg, and this would need a carrot and an egg and a gear, 3 different goods. And so player number 1, if they look at their cards here, they could buy something that's worth 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 4 different goods, so they could buy anything up to 4, and they have a couple extra gears here. So they're going to have to think about what they want to do. Do they want to buy multiple cards? Because you can, as many goods as you have, you can buy as many of these buildings as you can afford. So let's say that they choose to build this bowling alley. Okay, so by building the bowling alley, they add this building to their area, and that means they have to pay 3 goods, 3 unique goods. So they pay a gear, and actually, yeah, let's have them pay a gear and a stone and a carrot. And so they discard those to buy that good, or buy that building. And this building says they're going to gain 1 coin, and then there's a moon on here. So at night, they're going to gain 1 coin. All right. And we haven't gotten to the night phase. That's next. Now, I still have some goods here. So they could buy a 2 card because they have 2 different unique goods here. So they could buy one of the, either the gym to get some jump tokens, or they could buy the cafe to buy just victory points, which is what you're trying to get at the end of the game, is having these victory points, which are the coins. So you're trying to get to 20 coins or 20 victory points. And so just by purchasing a cafe, you would automatically get 2 coins into your collection. But another thing you can buy during the buy phase is you can buy hearts. And we know you only start with 4 hearts, so your run in the video level is going to be a little bit limited by that. So this player is going to choose to buy an extra heart. And this reminds us that if you want to buy your 5th heart, you have to pay 2 goods that are matching. So we got the word matching under here as a reminder. And they have 2 matching gears. So they're going to put those 2 matching gears into the discard pile and buy a heart, which means they get to put another heart on their player board. So pretty good round for player number 1. Sorry, player number 2, you got a little bit too risky and lost. All right, that is the end of the buy phase. One other important thing to remember though, in any individual buy phase, you can only buy one of any kind of building. You can't buy multiple sandwich stands, for instance, and you can't buy multiple bowling alleys, for instance. Now, in a later round, you could go back and buy a second or third or fourth of any of the buildings, but in any one single round, you can only buy one building of each type. All right, that is the end of buy phase. Phase 3 is called the night phase, and there are several steps in the night phase. So the first step is that you take this first player token or standee and you move it to the other player. So now player 2 is going to be the first player in the next round. The next step is that you discard or store treasures. So player number 2 lost all their treasures, all their goods, because they were too risky. But player number 1 spent most of them, but they do have this one fish left. And so they can store this under one of these buildings. So they're going to just store this at the bowling alley. Okay. You can put it under it, beside it. Usually I just put it below it on the table, but there's not enough room here in this video. So I'm just going to put it kind of beside there. So that is stored under the building. You can only store one good per building. So since player number 1 only has a bowling alley, they can only store one good, but they only had one good. So they don't have to discard any in this case because they had a place to store it. The next is that you look for any moon symbols on buildings that you already own. And player number 1 did buy a bowling alley that does have a moon symbol. So let me show you the close-up of that one. So here is the close-up of the bowling alley. You can see that at the night phase given by this moon, they are going to gain a coin. And so that is what the iconography means on these cards. So let's go back to the main board. All right, so they get a coin for having a bowling alley, and it's the night phase. And then after we do the moon symbols, we reset the hearts, so every player gets their life points back for the next round of the game. And then we shuffle the level deck, so we grab these cards and shuffle them to prepare for the next round. And then we check for game end. And as we said, you're trying to gain these coins. And so you check for game end by seeing if anyone has 20 coins. Well, we just started the game, so player 1 has 1 coin, player 2 has no coins. So we're not going to end the game, we're going to go into the next level. And at this point, we would do the same thing we did before. We would choose, are you going to compete in the next level? And since we're just starting a new level, both players would for sure join the level by putting their standees here. And then because they've both joined the level, they would each get a good. Now, this is player number 1, and this is player number 2, so they each get their good. And then we pursue through the running the level phase back to the beginning. So we would flip over this card and keep moving through. So in this case, whoa, right off the bat, red serpent. So they would immediately lose 3. And so this phase might be a little bit shorter, especially for this guy. He lost all of his goods last time and only has 1 left. So risking to stay in this level very much longer is going to mean he might even lose this 1 good. Although he might say, you know what, it's just 1 good. I lost 5 last time, so we'll risk it. This player has 2 left because they were able to purchase a heart. So they may say, you know what, I'm going to stay. That's the only 3 injury card. There are 2 doubles, and a double would kill either one. But there are also 3 with no injuries and 3 with only 1. So this player is probably going to risk it and the other player might not. But I think you've got a pretty good idea for the flow of the game. So again, at the end of the night phase, the last thing you do is check for end game. And so you know when someone has won, when they have the 20 coins. As soon as they have those 20 coins, the game is over. So let's pull back from this and let me talk about what I think about this game, Megaland. So I'm starting a new way to rate games, and this is my first video with Megaland to do that. As a teacher, I use rubrics a lot, and so I created somewhat of a rubric for my rating system. And in the end, it'll be something from 0 to 12, kind of thinking that 12-sided die. And I've got 6 categories, so those 6 categories can each score a 0, 1, or 2. So let's talk about Megaland. For production, I would say the production quality in terms of art and the components is great. I love the game trays, they're fabulous. I would say the rules were good. The player aids that are there are nice. I wouldn't mind if it had a player aid to give you the steps of the night phase, just a little card that had those 6 steps, but it's not a big deal. I would still say 2 out of 2 for production quality. Then for theme. For theme, I'm trying to figure out, is this theme really helpful? Is it immersive? And for this game, I would say it doesn't necessarily feel tacked on. You can feel the theme, but you could really pick almost any theme for this. And while there are some connections, Some of the cards that I flipped over and some of the buildings, it was like, well, why am I building buildings in a video game and getting coins? I didn't quite connect it all. So it wasn't bad. There were certain things we definitely were saying, hey, let's level up. So there were certain things that drew us in. So I would say 1 out of 2 for theme. For mechanisms and decision making, the mechanisms basically are resource management and push your luck. And those are fun mechanisms for me, and I think they're pretty simple mechanisms for people to pick up on. I think that push your luck mechanism can really drive a lot of laughter and fun when you keep pushing and you either succeed or don't. We had a few moments where one of us had great success just by flipping over the right cards, and it was great to celebrate together with those. So I think the mechanisms with this kind of game fit well. The decision making isn't seriously deep with this one. You, like I said, have to think about how far you're going to push your luck. You do have to keep an eye on what your opponent is doing, because there are some buildings you can buy that will impact that. So for instance, if your opponent falls, there are some buildings you can buy that give you a benefit when they fall. So you keep track of that as you're playing. So there's just enough player interaction. You're kind of keeping an eye on each other. You're keeping an eye on how many coins the other player is building up so that they don't reach that game end condition of 20 coins too quickly and you fall too far behind. But I think the gameplay mechanisms for this quick kind of a game fit pretty well. So I'd give it a 2 out of 2 on this as well. For game flow, I would say that because it's a nice snappy game, it's pretty good. I mean, there's not a lot of downtime. You're not going to be experiencing much AP in this game. You're just deciding, do I push my luck or not? There might be a little bit of trying to figure out which buildings are going to combo well or which buildings you need to buy sooner, keeping track of which ones are going to give you more coins and in what time. But really, it's a good snappy game. I think it flows well. Like I said, the theme doesn't necessarily drive too much, but it's a pretty standard, hey, you're trying to get victory points or coins, and so that didn't bother me at all. I think for game flow, it was pretty good. I'd give it a 2 out of 2. For replayability, I think, again, for a short game, the replayability is pretty good. You always have those 6-star card buildings that you're going to put out, but then you have 17 to choose from for your other 7. And so of those other 17, that's going to give quite a bit of variability. It suggests that, especially early on, you try to pick a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, all the way up to 5, so you have at least one of each level in your 7. But you don't really need to. You could pick all low or all high or any kind of combination you want. And so you could try to figure out good combos, bad combos, challenging combos. So I think there's some good replayability there. And because it is such a quick, filler, snappy game, it's one that's, because it's not hard to set up, pretty easy to put away when you're done because of those game trays. I would think this is a really good high replayability for our family because, hey, we can pull it out real quick, get a quick 20-minute game in, and we could teach it to other players pretty quickly as well. So if you want to try to draw other people into the gaming hobby, this one has pretty simple mechanisms to learn, and so it's good for that as well. So I'd say replayability 2 out of 2. And then finally, for my just opinion overarching, as I consider them all, does this stay on my table often? Does this need to leave my shelves and be traded for something else? And for me, I would say it's a 1 out of 2 here. I think it'll stay for a while because it would be a game we can introduce new people to pretty quickly and easily. It is a nice filler and the art's great. So I think we will get a good amount of play out of it. I think it'll stay on our shelves for quite some time. I don't think it'll come out that frequently though. So that's why I'm giving it a 1 out of 2 in that category. So overall in this rating system, this one ranks as a 10 out of 12. And that may seem kind of high for a game that you can probably tell from my comments that I don't absolutely love, but I do really enjoy. And it will stay on the shelf. And it will be one that we pull out to fill in between some of our bigger games. So I really do like this game. I would recommend it to people who are wanting to have a new filler game, especially if they happen to enjoy Ryan Laukat art. I think this is a high quality game and I think it deserves that 10 out of 12 on my system. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please click like and subscribe. You might want to click that bell icon so you can get notifications for future videos. If you have comments, questions about the game, maybe I made a rules goof that you want to point out, or something that you really like about Megaland or some other Ryan Laukat game, please leave a comment below. As always, thanks for watching. This is Bill Indiana, signing off.